We are back with another ZnZerna Music Hour. My name's P.T. Burnham, and we're already droning away. I thought I'd introduce the pieces as they came in tonight. A little bit of deconstruction. I want you to check it out. If there's any questions about anything, let me know in the chat. Want to say what's up to everyone, especially everybody at Cold Rhymes Records. Footbags, what's going on? Dan Keach, Height, what's up? Erica P. Good to know y'all. Glad to know we're on this mission together. I was actually just telling my friend how wonderful it is to be a part of something that is continuing as we get up in these years to build the musical abilities. So drink drinks and a big cheers to all my folks at Cold Rhymes Records. I also want to say what's up to my Dust Cats. Stickers are getting ordered tonight. I'm really excited. I won't show you the graphic yet, but tonight I'm going to be introducing all the different machines as they come in. Right now, all we've got is a drone going on from Mononoke. It's right here. I got two bees going. And I can bring in a G flat that really wrecks the place. I can also fold that up. So those are some things I can do there. Also, tonight I've got playing my trusty tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, and I think this is called Dead Doctors Don't Lie, and it's, you know, kind of your typical alternative health guy getting kind of mad at the doctors and being like, well, all these doctors died of this simple health thing, so I can prevent the health thing, and I'll tell you how. And I'm sure he sold these tapes and different things. But yes, I'm not going to give you this 800 number. I don't know how deep I want you going into the Dead Doctors Don't Lie universe. But if you make a special request, I might give you the number. Maybe we should call it. Maybe we should call it here while we're on the air. But let's for now, just suffice to say, I got the tape going, and it's going into the tensor pedal, which is also running into the tonal recall, giving us a nice delay and repetition of whatever's coming out of the tensor. Right now, what I've got coming out of the tensor is this interesting.
Everybody just putting a figure up on the board, the numbers, and I'm gonna start out here by just putting a figure up on the board.
So those little drums are part of a program that I've created to mimic a very interesting drum machine that just came out. I'm gonna mute these. So you can So I've got these weird electronic sounds that have a variation. Colorful ops. I'm not sure what do you mean? Good to see you, clever parasite.
Here, and I'm gonna start out here by just putting number our cat our blood carrots on some calf scar pillow.
So right down below you, you've got the tape recorder. You can actually see the screen from here. And the pulsar. Actually, clever parasite, check this shit out. Right now, the lights are just being handled by a color changing light that I can slow down or dim. So nothing really special. Tonight, that's a bit of a hoax. What we've also got tonight is this synthesizer, well hoaxed. You know, it's basically going with the beat, the BPM. So this has been something interesting that I've been playing around with, is like an intro that's in a different key, but still has some of the same notes and serves as a great introduction.
Some calf on some
or my those 22s, 25 way to Metro,
those 29 ball, those 29 oranges. Just a heat. And in 10 days, according to Harvard Medical, spoon,
Cocoon.
big teaspoon,
teaspoon, cocoon, big teaspoon,
big teaspoon,
to the dome.
Just a heaping teaspoon. That study from Harvard Medical said, quote, that study from Harvard Medical School, and here's what he said, quote, the drug was beneficial, unquote. Because it worked, chicken cartilage had become a drug. You can see he's thinking about patent numbers, around with $300 a capsule, 20 patients, and you just see him calculating, right? That means if you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and you buy a bucket of chicken, throw away the skin and the meat, and eat the ends off the bones, you're practicing medicine without a license. And if you go to a Kentucky Fried Chicken in the middle of the night, in the dark of the night, you go to the dumpster and you root through there and collect 2 5-gallon feed buckets full of chicken bones, and you take them home with a hammer and you pound off the ends of those bones. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those bones and dry your own carbon. Pound off the ends of those. Pound off the ends of those bones.
Now, right now, I do have one thing that's doing something along with the beat, and that's this light behind me.
those bones and dry room. The ends of those bones. Carved off the ends of those bones and dry room. Carved off the ends of those bones and dry room. Carved off the ends of those bones and dry room. Carved off the ends of those bones and dry room. Carved off the ends of those bones and dry room. Carved off the ends of those bones.
From a ruptured aortic autopsy.
They got the amount of copper in there, and the next year they tried to raise 500,000 turkeys, and they didn't lose a single turkey from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. And they ran that experiment.
Found out that they all had died. From a ruptured aortic aneurysm.
Found out that they all had died.
Found out that they all had died.
Gals want steel buns, you know, doing their little exercises.
Gals want steel buns. Ruptured cerebral aneurysm.
We're gonna go back to a tape. We're gonna go back to a tape that I played at one point in a live stream a couple of weeks ago, but I think it was on mute. Footbags was kind enough to draw my attention to that. So now that it's not on mute, let's see if we can get some of this weird late shit going.
If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. Simply disappears as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. Simply disappears as soon as the light. It simply disappears. If the light simply the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears as soon as the light. If the shadow simply disappears.
Now, stand. And you're going to see, stand. And you're going to see a box.
Stand. And you're going to see a box. Stand. And you're going to see a box. Stand. And you're going to see a box. Stand. And you're going to see a box. Stand.
Clever Parasite, as usual, you do get my creative process.
And you're going to see a box.
The trick is to pick the best stuff and then put it,
Stand. And you're going to see a box.
or for those samples, they're coming from a tape.
And you're going to see a box.
I've got this tape player running into this tensor pedal, which samples it.
And you're going look into the inside. Look into the inside. Look into the inside. Look into the inside. Look into
The inside. And look into the inside. And look into the inside.
It's a pedal. The tensor is a pedal that grabs chunks of sound and then can glitch them out and control their timing.
Look into the inside. And 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 look into the look into the inside. Look into the inside. Look into the inside.
See Jesus standing. If you cannot
This one
see
talks a lot about Jesus.
Look into the inside. And look into the substance surrogate for Jesus. See light fall out. Him be a substance, be a surrogate. Him be a substance, be a surrogate for Jesus. See light fall out. Him be a substance, be a surrogate for Jesus. Walk toward Jesus. Walk toward Jesus. Howard. 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 If you haven't already, respond to Jesus. Respond to
Walk towards Jesus is exactly what he said. And then sometimes it'll just make these nice sounds. If you just hit it real fast. If there is no positive, and with whatever you given
And with whatever you have given it, 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 and with whatever you have given it. At that moment, 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 at that So said Jesus. 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 We'll find life returning to. 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 We'll find
life returning to returning to.
We'll find
life returning to. We'll find life returning to. We'll find life returning
I love
to. We'll
dogs.
find life
returning. Life returning to will find. 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 Life returning to.
who had an
Experience.
on the lower
Limbs and then
limbs as a description of your master.
Give a description of your
Of your
master.
master. As a description of your master.
Oh yeah,
Of your
the
master.
prickles of noise are their own
Of your
percussive
master.
little
Of your
piece.
master. As a description of your master. Of your master. As a description of your master. Of your master. As a description of your master. Of your master. As a description of your master. Of your master. As a description of your master. Of your master. Of your master. blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life.
Jason, those little clicky guys are kind of the star of the show for some parts of this track. Those little... And that's all being driven by the MPC.
Blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Pretty well blazing your own trail. Feel like you're walking through life. Walked across this and you found the lake in the valley. Walked across this and you found the lake. Walked across this and you found. Walked across this and you found the lake. Walked across this and you found the lake. Walked across this and you found.
Real quick, there is not a lot to say about the bells.
The lake. And you found. You walked across.
What I got to say about the Bells project right now is that when she suggested wire at the beginning, What up, One Infinite Zero? Yes, you were right about this wire. And I can't really mimic the... That's about right. It doesn't seem to be stretching too much as the days go by, making it a much more stable piece. But I may even need to reorient the positioning of the bells from a vertical position to a more horizontal position. Yes, exactly. Using the wire to suspend with minimal dampening. Not just minimal dampening, but maximum, minimum dampening and maximum stability for when this striker strikes it, it won't double hit by bouncing back. In fact, no, I'm not even going to try and put it on right now. In fact, we might be coming to a close. I'm feeling pretty good, but I've been, yes, it's going to be 8 bells surrounding me on November 16th. When's your birthday, Clever Parasite?
Then you found.
November 1st. So coming up, yeah, fellow Scorpio.
Probably because you didn't want to go. Probably because.
So on November 16th, 15 days after your birthday, we are going to be doing a show at Gallery 5 where I'm going to have the bells all put together and around the audience. My semi-autonomous deconstructed robot Glockenspiel.
Probably because you didn't want to go. 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 Probably because you didn't.
Scorpius rising. I feel good about it.
Probably because you didn't. Probably because you didn't want to go. You didn't want to go. Probably because Probably because you didn't want to go. Probably because you didn't want to go.
All right.
Probably because you didn't. Probably because you didn't want to go. Probably because something they have done to you or something they are. Something they have done to you or something they are. Something they have done to you or something. Something they have done to you or something. Something they have done to you or something they are. Something they have done to you.
Oh, that'll be tight.
Something they have done to you or something they are. Something they have done to you or something they are.
Gonna celebrate my birthday with an unveiling of an invention. I've been having these troubles with it, and I've been like, oh my God, is it gonna be too crazy? But I think I've got it under control thanks to the help of the people around me. You know?
Something they are, something they have done to you, or
something they are, or something they've done to you.
If it remain negative, if it remain negative,
Okay, so I'm going to a new beat right now, and
if it remain negative,
I'm not sure
if it remain negative,
if I've got this thing the way that I need it.
if it remain negative, if it remain negative, if it
Okay, here we go.
negative, 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 negative,
Is this it?
if it remain negative, if it remain
Oh,
negative,
cool, we got this thing going.
if it remain negative, if it negative, if it remain negative, if it remain negative, if it remain negative, if it remain negative, in negative, if it remain negative, in negative, if it remain negative, in negative, in negative, if it remain negative, if it remain statement by him, figure my son, the daughter of the man, my daughter of the man, statement was time, was box, in good shape on the outside, in good
Are you ready? Material you find.
The material you find. The material you find. The material you find.
The material you find. The material you find. Now for your ears to the material you find. The material you find. The material you find. The material you find. Now for your ears to the material you find. The material you find.
The material you find. The material you find. The material you find.
The material you find.
The material you find. The material you find.
Now for your ears to the If it was something negative, it means that you have something
Something negative, it means that you have something something negative, it means that you have something something negative, it means that you have something something negative, it means that you have something something negative, it means that you have something
Alright. I'm going out on that one. I'll be going to bed after this. But we should talk tomorrow. Get the thought down on paper.
spiritual marriage to you, marriage to you, marriage to you.
Robot Dorito. That was good. That had some nice, interesting parts. We got a great nature sound and a ground hum. I want to say thank you to all my dust cats properly. Got some phases. Gotta move. I want to say thank you to my DigiCats. I want to say thank you to my ZnZerna cats, Kenny Creech, Erica Ponziak, Brittany Pittman, Melissa Schick, and Gerard Schultz. Charlotte Herrera, Sam Seeger, Becca Magsid, Jen Dudley, Eric Akers, Anna Carmen, Wayne Anderson, Quinn Cat, Austin Cat, Viz, what's up? Safe travels. Thank you to all my Dusty Cats. Thank you to my Lumi Cats. My Lumi Cat. Dog fuck. I just saw you a little while earlier today. It's good hangs. Last but not least, Barry Cat. Royal Blue, thank you so much for your support. The bells are getting built, and I'm hoping to see you at the show. I consider my patrons to be I'm kind of doing the art in their name in a lot of ways. Alright, so we've had some fun with the tape recorder. We've had some fun with Mononoke and the MPC. And I hope that y'all had a good time. Last of the drinks getting drank. Footbags, what's up? 1 Infinite Zero. I've had fun exploring this little digital realm, these couple digital realms, with y'all this evening on the ZnZerna Music Hour. I hope you'll join me next week. I think by then I'll have some bells in effect, we'll see. But it's looking good. If you're running into problems, don't be afraid to take a step back from the problem. Get a bird's eye view. Most things are small. Even if I totally botch the Bell project, it's not the end of my life, or even the creative process. That being said, not about to botch these bells. Anyways, it's been a cool Tuesday. Hope to see you next Tuesday. Till then, keep listening to the world around you. And I will see you then. 7 p.m. ZnZerna Music Hour. I'll see you, then. I don't know why I'm repeating myself, but hope y'all have a good evening. And, yeah.